Gotham Season 5. This is, of course, the final season for Gotham. Shortened season. They only went with 12 episodes. Took it to its 100th episode. So let's go ahead and get into this. This is going to be a spoiler review. I did the mostly spoiler-free review on my blog, soundandbettermyhead.com. I dropped a few spoilers in there, but if you want to read that first and not get spoiled, go ahead. Otherwise, I'm just going to go to town here. Ended up being overall disappointed with the season. It started off pretty strong. Carried over from last season with the No Man's Land storyline. You had some nice mystery. You had people blowing up the safe havens that Gordon set up. Then it turns out to be the Riddler, and then you see someone's controlling the Riddler. And I thought that was all pretty well done. Then, once again, probably the highlight of the season, you bring Jeremiah back. And he's a slow build. He's kind of more in the background. But just the solid storyline with him. I love this classic Joker persona that he's doing. That to go through the trouble of filming his own little movie to kind of taunt Bruce. He's got himself dressed up like Zorro, doing his own little Joker version of Zorro, and just little stuff like that was like it's always just cool to see basically the Joker in action. But then after that, the story just took a downturn. It also hurt that they took like a lot of breaks as far as airing episodes, and I think it hurts the flow. You just kind of get back into it, then they show like a couple episodes and they take another break, so I think that hurt a lot. But long story short, I think just the Bane stuff kind of fell flat. They hyped up Bane would be in it, and I'll probably get more to him in a little bit as far as how I felt about the character. But I just thought the execution was a little weak. It pretty quickly started turning into an homage of The Dark Knight Rises, just without the technical skill of a Christopher Nolan and a big budget putting the movie together. It was just the Gotham budget, and it was pretty pale in comparison to like what they were going for. Again, this season only had 12 episodes. At one point, it was only going to be 10. They gave an opportunity to throw some more stuff in. Unfortunately, I think they tried to throw too much in as fan service, and I think it didn't always work because they had to give it the short end of the stick and just throw it in there and then move on with it. A good example is we finally got to see a version of the ventriloquist with Scarface. It was one episode, and they just completely killed him off. Puppet and puppeteer. It's like, okay, now you're not going to see him again in the Batman universe. Granted, the show's over, but you kind of want to think this guy's out there still doing whatever. But no, they just introduced him and killed him off, and it was kind of weird. They did kind of like a proto Killer Croc, which I don't know if it's supposed to be him or it's implied someone else gets mutated into Killer Croc. Again, that gets away from his origin, where it was someone with a rare condition since birth and not someone that got mutated by something in the sewers. But, I mean, Gotham always has their own take on stuff. Of course, we still have a lot of the classic stuff for Gotham that does work. Always love the interaction between Penguin and the Riddler. Just, they're trying to kill each other, they're not trying to kill each other, they're trying to get over on each other, and they're always kind of plotting it. It just always works. They got great chemistry, and it continues this season. Eventually, Barbara kind of gets thrown in the mix, and they took an interesting twist with her. It was a big stretch to have her go back to being basically a total good guy enough to hook up with James Gordon long enough to get pregnant, so she could have Barbara, little Barbara, eventually Batgirl. Then slowly taking Bruce and Selina towards being Batman and Catwoman. Selina took a weird jump with the boost from Poison Ivy's magic root or whatever, and it looked like it was going to be a bigger deal about her not having control over her abilities, and it just kind of lasted an episode or two, and she went back to being normal. And then just little things like as they go, she got her claws, Bruce starts using grappling hooks, just nice little things that you say, makes you smile because it's getting closer to being their characters from the classic comics. Again, as far as the Joker, which I mentioned earlier, just always fantastic performance. I just hate the fact that they refuse to call him the Joker, and if you read interviews with the producers on the show, they basically imply that he's still not the Joker, he'll never be the Joker, some other guy's going to show up and basically be a ripoff of him, and the Joker, who's supposed to be so original, is apparently just going to be a ripoff of some nut job and his brother, who's another nut job, which I hate it personally. I mean, granted, they don't say that in the show, they leave you feeling that this was a Joker, but, it is what it is. Also, another big jump, taking his sidekick Echo, who was just like a badass who didn't talk much, and she basically becomes a ripoff of Harley Quinn. It works just because you're not going to see the real Harley Quinn in the show, so just being able to have the character, even though it's not really her, was a little bit of fun. I think a lot of this stuff kind of got cut out of the show too because of time. Harvey doesn't really do much besides just kind of back up Gordon. He gets some weird kind of origin kind of thing going on, like a weird episode about his past that just fell out of place. It was just kind of thrown in there for him to do something. Tabitha died in like the first episode, so that was just kind of odd. I don't even really know what the point of bringing her back was. Gordon was Gordon. Seems like every season we get some kind of weird. Gordon has to hallucinates episode, and he has to figure his way out of it to come back to like wake up or back to life or whatever. But it's kind of, I don't know. Those are buzzkill episodes, and they're kind of stupid in my opinion. Lee, I think, is not even there like the first half of the season before she finally pops up, and she really doesn't have a big role like she did the last couple seasons. She's just kind of there. She's kind of in the background. She helps out here and there, but she wasn't like, she had the whole Gotham, the Queen in the Narrows thing last season. This season, it's like, they just almost didn't know what to do with her. And like I said before, we got introduced to Bane this season, and I was very disappointed. The design was horrible. He just kind of had this kind of junky cyborg look to him, and this kind of glowing mask, which gave me bad flashbacks of the Batman and Robin movie. He wasn't that physically imposing. They made him kind of a ripoff of like a Terminator. He's walking through fire, and he seems bulletproof and almost unbeatable. Except for that time, like, bats came and beat him up somehow, and he was, that's the only thing that really stopped him. I did like, they went with the Tom Hardy type voice for, the main character, which, funny thing is, in the comics, and I think even some of the cartoon appearances, he's Latino, and he's just got a Spanish voice. But I think people know the Tom Hardy voice, so I think that worked pretty well, actually, for the character. Initially, didn't know much about what Walker was supposed to be, and then as he got a little bit closer to the reveal, it became pretty obvious that they were going to go the Ra's al Ghul's daughter route. Interesting that they made her Nyssa, who's the more underused character, and it keeps it from being a total ripoff of The Dark Knight Rises. So that was decent. They made her fairly badass. She could fight. She whooped everybody's ass pretty well, and they saved her for later, which wasn't necessary considering she's not a big of a character as Talia. And pretty much have to get down now to the season finale. Fairly disappointed with it. You had the quick time jump to 10 years ahead, and it's just kind of weird that after this big dramatic thing about Penguin and Riddler are going to like take over Gotham, Penguin immediately went to jail and Riddler immediately went to Arkham, and they never did anything. Again, does such a good job of establishing Selina's character throughout these seasons, and you're watching her grow and becoming closer to being Catwoman, and it kind of sucked that for the final episode they brought in a completely different actress. I mean, she looked very similar, and the voice was a little bit different. Granted, she's supposed to be older, but it just didn't quite feel like Selina. I mean, I don't know. I know why they did it. You're supposed to be an adult. She's supposed to be Catwoman. I know the actress playing her beforehand. Cameron Bicondova, I believe her name is. She's pretty short. She doesn't look like this tall, slender, sexy Catwoman you expect from the comics. Jeremiah comes back again as the fake Joker. Again, he was doing a pretty solid Mark Hamill impression to start off with, and he just kind of slipped into like a sort of mediocre Joker voice, and he really was barely in it. He had a couple quick scenes, and that was about it. And then the grand finale, the big reveal of Batman, was kind of sucked, to be honest. You don't see him the whole episode. He's kind of in the shadows. You hear his voice once in a while, and it sounds kind of weird. It's got this weird metallic echo kind of thing going on. There is one point he's talking a little bit more normal, and it does sound like his normal speaking voice is a little bit deeper, but you just don't see him. You see him kind of blurred in the background, you see the shadows, you see over the shoulder, and it was pretty disappointing that you just don't get to see him after hyping him up. And you get the one very, very last shot. It looked a little CGI heavy because it was a young, his face on a different actor, probably a stuntman's body, or maybe even just a CGI body altogether. I don't know how they did it. And no jumping down like, hey, I'm Batman. No, he's just some guy hanging out on the rooftop. It was a little disappointing. In some ways, it was almost even more disappointing than the Smallville finale, because you barely got him in the costume. The one full body shot you got looked like it was totally CGI, and at the end you just got the Superman S reveal. But at least there you had Clark Kent the whole episode. Here, since it's an older Bruce Wayne, he's supposed to be taller, they just didn't have Bruce Wayne in it at all. And I would have liked to see the older Bruce Wayne interact with everybody, but obviously for what they were going for, you couldn't have done it without recasting. So I don't know, just disappointed by that overall. I think I'm going to just go through my notes now, because I don't think I have that much else to say about the season. Nothing else that pops in my head. Some of the time jumps were a little weird, because it's weird how they start off this big thing where they're shooting at all the soldiers, and then it jumps back. And then it jumps periodically, but they never actually say how big some of the jumps are. It's not a big deal, but I would have liked to see in day 32 or day 100. I think it would have helped establish a little bit more epicness of how long this stuff was going on. Get a quick glimpse of Poison Ivy, still slowly getting a little bit closer to the full-on Ivy, but then we just don't see her again after the early part of the season. Like I said, some great twists with the Gordon getting everybody safely to this, these buildings, fighting off all the bad guys, and then the thing just explodes and pretty much everyone dies. I mean, that was a pretty solid twist and a pretty exciting way to end the episode. Because another problem throughout the season, there's just a lot of mediocre cliffhangers, and it seems like most of it was just about Penguin, Riddler, and eventually Barbara all planning on getting in the submarine, and it just would end with them. We're gonna get parts for the sub, or we're gonna do this, and it would just end. It just they all felt really anticlimactic, which is a strange trend this season. One more look at Zaz again this season. I always hate that he got all these cops got guns trained on him, and yeah, he's a great shot, but he just starts randomly shooting, and the cops shoot, and just because he's a good shot, apparently they all miss because they can't even hit him, standing out in the open. I also liked a few things, a few nods to Nicholson's Joker, the way they did Jeremiah this season, just the way with the hat and the way his costume was a little bit, and some of the things that he did. I thought it was a nice nod to the classic Batman '89. And so we still never got a classic Riddler this season. All the episodes he came in, even in the finale, we didn't get any of Riddler doing something bad and putting a riddle out there and someone having to solve it. He hints at doing it in the finale, but we just don't see it. And it's always a little disappointing. It takes away from what makes his character so interesting in the comic books. I mean, the actor does a good job throughout the Gotham series, and it works for his character, but it would have been nice in the finale to see a bit of that. Surprisingly, there was no emotional resonance with Gordon and Lee marrying. It's just kind of I guess because they just had so much bullshit back and forth, and it's just kind of all right, she's back together with them, and now they're married. It just felt a little rushed, and it didn't feel like it was earned. That was also kind of funny. Everyone's all dressed all night, and then Selina's still wearing her Catwoman claws, which I just thought was a little funky. And second to last episode was a bit odd too. Everybody had this big, hero turn, like the Riddler and Penguin. They all joined forces, and they had kind of a cheesy thing with Gotham standing up to Bane. And then immediately after, Penguin and Riddler turn evil again. And even worse, like I said earlier in the finale, then they just basically both got locked up. And then Bruce was gone the whole time. So kind of nothing happened for 10 years. Just a new Wayne Tyler got built, Barbara got rich, and Gordon grew his mustache, which looked kind of cool because it's classic Gordon, and then he immediately shaved it off, which was kind of annoying. And I don't got too much else. Like I said, it wasn't a bad season. I think initially I would have gave it a pretty high mark, but I thought the second half of the season just kind of dragged and pulled it down, and the finale is what makes a difference, and I think they didn't stick the landing. So I ended up giving it 2.5 out of 5. At one point I could easily have gone 3.5 starting off, but it's really about all I got. Thanks for watching. Again, you could read this review, which is way less rambling, or some other reviews, or some comic strips even on my blog, soundedbettermyhead.com, and thanks again.